I think just be bored. Find times to be bored.
Talking about a scene, it's what we're doing. Come and check it out, it's what we're all about. 561 Music!
561 Music Festival.
Brought to you by Stenger, Greene and Feiner.
At the Meyer Amphitheater.
May 3rd.
It's a free show.
20 bands.
2 stages.
Art vendors.
Food vendors.
Drinks vendors.
There you go. Go to 561musicfestival.com for details.
20 bands will play West Palm Beach all day. Support your music scene. May the 3rd is free. 561 Music Festival.
Supported by Stenger, Greene and Feiner.
Welcome to 561 Music. My name's Ben.
And I'm Hector.
How are you doing, Hector?
I'm doing good. You sound like you were losing your voice a little bit there.
I wonder why.
Did you play 32 hours of music this weekend, perhaps?
Yeah, in fact, my voice is surprisingly not that gone considering what we did.
I'm going to say that I am very surprised at how well it held up. Usually by the end of the night on Monday, you're just roasted.
Yeah. Well, I was really trying up. There's a couple of things now in the set that I say I, but it's really we, because you're responsible for doing the part that I'm no longer singing. have switched out, so I don't have to hit all of those high notes. What I find with when we're singing and playing hours and hours and hours is the bits that I really struggle with is like, it's not like hitting the odd high note. It's like maintaining really high stuff.
Yeah. Of course.
And yeah, that's just what gets me. It's like, and it doesn't break like it used to. It just starts to drift down now, which is so weird. Yeah, must be getting old or something.
Well, it's funny because we switched to me doing some of those high parts and some of the main high parts.
Yeah.
And now at the end of the weekend, I was the one that was starting to have trouble hitting those notes because my voice was giving out.
Well, that's it. It's
but it's fine because I'm not doing the bulk of the singing, so it's fine.
It's a lot. It's a lot of singing when we're doing those St. Patrick's Day gigs. Are just never ending.
Brutal.
But it was a lot of fun. So if anyone was there and is also listening to the podcast, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. We had an absolute blast. It was.
That was amazing.
It was busy and everyone was well behaved. There was no absolute awful craziness. It was great.
Almost everyone.
Oh yeah, true. Almost everyone. Oh my. So I feel like it's okay to talk about.
Yeah, I think so.
The on Monday we put together a bill of different bands for the St. Patrick's Day celebrations over at Paddy Mac's. I organised that and with help from all the other guys, but and with help from Hugh as well, but it's mostly me who does it. And one of the guys who was playing, Shane, we only knew that he was from Ireland, and he was apparently a very good musician. And silly me, I thought, well, he's coming from Ireland, that must mean he's good because, what's he doing, like traveling the world with his music if he's not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And boy, was I wrong.
Well, I can confirm that he's from Ireland.
Yeah.
That's about all I can confirm.
Yeah, good Lord. Yeah, he wasn't even... He was mean.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it wasn't even the quality. Not that was great, but it wasn't even the quality. It was his entire attitude of showing up late, not caring, acting like a diva, treating us like we were beneath him. And then, talking down to us as he's leaving the stage, telling us that, we're just a cover band and don't worry, one day we'll get to his level. I don't even know where that came from.
He was the most deluded man on planet Earth.
Completely disrespectful.
I mean, I think at certain points, everyone can have a little bit of a loose relationship with reality, but this guy, he was on another planet. He was not here with the rest of us.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway... we have Ryan Hopkins with us today. How's it going?
Sir, howdy guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Looking forward to it.
So, I've been listening to your recordings and how many albums do you have out at the moment?
It's 2 EPs. We got Artemis that just released late last year, and then we had 20s the year prior.
Okay,
So-
cool. And when you say we, is it? Do you consider sort of like Ryan Hopkins, the project, to be like the band?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely do. My drummer and I have been through it for the whole time. So David Nordstrom
Excellent.
has been with me since really started solidifying my own
Nice.
thing. So 20s was a record of songs that I wrote from the first song being when I was 20 years old, and the last song around 28 or so, and recorded when I was 29. And
nice.
it was just all the songs that I was gigging with and playing with. But until meeting with David and kind
Sure.
of that locked it in with my drummer.
Cool.
Now we have a bassist, Abba, that's been sitting in with us and playing all the shows with us. So it's definitely us.
Is it a
not-
three-piece?
It's a three-piece right now, yeah.
That's a solid amount of people. We have a three-piece with Killbillies, and it's a very manageable amount of people.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of stress exponentially rises every time you add another person. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame because sometimes it's fun to have a bunch of people on stage, but
It's
just,
killer.
Yeah.
It's killer to have as much backing sound as you can until you
Yeah.
need to get everyone and load in.
Yeah,
As long
exactly.
as they're all reliable.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the key. As long as
Yeah.
they're all reliable.
Yeah.
And finding a group of men who play music for a living and all of them as reliable that's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's awesome. We were talking a little bit about the way you recorded it, but maybe we'll wait on that. Why did you call it the newer EP Artemis?
Artemis is goddess of the moon.
Yeah.
It was a bottle of wine I was sharing at the time, and it just kind of spurred around it. So same thing with the 20s record was I kind of need something to write about in order to start and finish it.
Right on, yeah.
So it helps give a little bit of a book note to things.
Bit of
So if
shape.
yeah. So if you listen to that record, it starts off of the beginning of a relationship to the end of the relationship within those 4 songs. So it starts off flirty and fun to the end of it. So it's all based around that concept. I also liked reading into Artemis and finding out that there was just this duality of wondering if she was good or if she was bad. And it's all
If ever
subjective in
there's
its own
one like
right.
that, it's Artemis, yeah. It's like the gods of the wild and the hunt.
Exactly.
Preciousness and,
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about Artemis is not Artemis at all. It's a book series that I read in probably in my 30s, but it was like for teens. It was called
Artemis Fowl. Yeah,
right?
buddy, I
They're
got you on that.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I read those.
It's like
as well.
a child thief in,
Yeah.
in the underworld with
Yeah,
elves
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, I read those too. Yeah, we're on the same page.
It's the only time I ever heard the word Artemis.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. How often do you gig out? Like what kind of like what sort of week by week schedule do you guys have?
So right now we're doing it where it's probably about 4 or 5 times a month. So it used to be pretty steady where it was like 4 or 5 times a week, especially
Yeah.
as a solo. So I did solo gigs for a long time there. So if we take it back even further, I started gigging out when I was 20. Probably around 26 or 27 was when I was hitting it 4 or 5 times a week. We're talking about you blowing your voice out, but
Yeah.
you do it 4 or 5 times a week and you're shot. And
Yeah, for sure. It's really, I've been there, trust me, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. But you don't have any time to catch up. That's a problem.
No, that was just kind of what it turned out to be. Is so around that time was when COVID hit, and then that gave me a second to just take a break and breathe for a minute. And I realized I liked breathing, and that was when I started looking at 20s and just kind of writing a record because I recognized that I was playing all these gigs and I was getting better at that element of it, but my guitar wasn't opening up at home. I wasn't learning new stuff. I
Yeah.
was just kind of running around the same type of set. You have 100 songs that you gig out and you're pretty good
Sure.
with those 100.
Yeah. And there's a limit to how much you can learn just dogging yourself around bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can learn a lot. It's great for just getting people on your side, and you almost become a bit like a stand-up comedian, almost. Know how to communicate with people.
Work the room, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have changed how many times I've done it for the world, but there is a certain point when you go like, all right, if I'm going to push it in this direction, I can't just be spending all of my time playing in bars.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of the thing. So recently, we've my band and I have been playing over at Tin Roof. They treat us well. They're going to put us on the road this year, so we'll
Nice.
be doing a few other states and kind of add into that repertoire. But they treat us good. They got the sound. They got the sound engineer there. They have the house kit. We walk in, we play our set. People are there for music. You know, they're massive.
Yeah,
and,
totally. Tin Roof's a cool spot.
Yeah. And for us, it was kind of, you know, you play so many places where you're ruining somebody's date. You know, you're sitting in the bar and they're like, "What the fuck are you playing this?" So, you know, when you play for a place where people are at least seeking out music, I would rather play those 3 or 4 to 5 times a month. But every gig, you're like, I'd put all of it on that stage.
100%.
And I can stand by that performance. Because after a while, for me, what I recognized was, I was like, even if I played to the audience that wanted to hear me, I've done 12 shows in a row. I'm drained. I'm beat. I don't have it in me. There's no life in it. So I want
phoning
you to
it
see
in
it
a little bit.
Yeah, and you don't want to feel like you're phoning it in. You want to feel the reason why you love the thing that you do. For me personally.
And are these like are these gigs like the 3 and 4 hour, you know,
3 hours straight,
mostly cover stuff and everything?
Yeah. So we'll do our typical set has about 70 songs at our feet. So we'll probably play about 55 a set, and then 6 of them might be originals, 5 of them.
Yeah.
You got to gauge it out, because if you really have the crowd on your side, you don't want to turn everybody away from you and watch them walk away the one time you hit an original.
Exactly. we do I don't know.
You know
do
the
about
dance.
15-20% originals, depending.
We ask sometimes, you know, do you guys want to hear another original, or do you want to hear a cover? And almost always they're like, originals.
Yeah.
We're waiting for that one day that someone goes, nah, just play a cover.
Yeah.
I could show you some people. No, but it is nice when you get somebody that at least asks or comes up to you like, hey, we want to hear some original music.
Yeah.
South Florida, I feel like it's hard about that, because then I play in other markets, like play out in Austin quite a bit, and you go out there and you play covers, and they're looking at you like you're the problem. You're like, why? Show us what you got.
Yeah,
so
we do what we do, man. Because like, you know, that was something that we just, you know, we talked about, and we recognized that the local scene is great, but it's not great for original music.
Right.
No. And there's a lot of great original music.
There's a lot of talent down here.
There's a lot of talent down here.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. That's what this podcast is about, what the festival's all about. It's even what the school we're singing is all about. It's just fostering that, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's a lot of talent down here, and it's funny because it gets a little bit diluted by people paying covers, especially if it's just right down the middle covers. What I try to do with my guys is we try to blend as many songs together and change it as much as you can, and try to keep those things so that it at least inspires something on stage, like you're saying, so you don't feel like you're just running yourself into the ground.
Totally. And one of the things that that James will do, and it's not because he can't be bothered. It really isn't. It's just that he doesn't want it to get in his head. It's quite often when we'll do a cover, he'll be, if it's a song that like I'm bringing to it, he like won't listen to it. You know, You're like, well, and he'll just kind of
do it his way.
Yeah.
Just not listen
and then he'll
to it.
listen
That's the
to
coolest
it, like,
way to do it.
Yeah, and then he'll listen to it later. You know, a couple of months later or something. But right out of the gate, he just tries to figure out something cool to play over it, and so we can reinvent it. And the good thing about having a banjo and a guitar and feet drums and a stand-up bass is we can play any song. It's not going to sound like the original unless it's Muppet and Sons of
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially the banjo, you give yourself the opportunity. I mean, for me, I like finding female vocal songs in order to try to rearrange them so I don't, because if it's a male song, I can kind of replicate what that person's doing. If it's a female song, you do it and you're already trying to recompose it in your head. So
do you have any favorites in that regard?
Yeah, Say My Name seems to hit pretty hard. Destiny's Child, we do that one quite a bit. But I'm sure there's others that'll come to mind shortly afterwards. But yeah, to me, it's almost playing the song enough. If I have enough time with it, of just keep going with it 20, 30 times until it sounds like you rather than you doing an impersonation of somebody else.
Yes, South Florida's a really funny. Well, Florida in general, but South Florida is a really funny market when it comes to music, because we are really, really fortunate that there are so many places to play, that you can make a living here as a musician. Yeah, you can. There's plenty of people that do it. So, there's that side of it. But then there's, like you said, the other side of it, that you get so lost in the cover scene that you don't find yourself as an original artist anymore. Yeah. You're losing your voice basically. Yeah. You're not creating now.
For sure.
Now you're just copying it.
Yeah. Totally, man.
No, I've seen it with enough guys where, again, just really talented individuals who are going out and playing, and you see them, year 2, and you're going, hey, you used to release music. What happened? Yeah. And your music was good too. Like it's not like I'm looking forward to it, and you're like, yeah, no, I clocked in and I clock out. And you're like, that's a shame.
It's kind of, it fulfills like a small part of what some people are looking for in all of this. And as a result, they can just remain there forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than trying to look beyond that. And I think that's, a combination of complacency and a little bit of like fear of the unknown. And,
For sure.
it's just like, they're like, well, this is a safe little ledge I found myself on. I'll just stay
There's a
here.
lot of vulnerability to it. I mean, even just like I said, that first record took me. I wrote the first song when I was 20. That Think About song, which is a little comical to sing now, 12 years later, 13 years later, because it's a little bit of a parody of myself in a sense.
Right, yeah.
But you write those songs, and I sat on them for so long, but I would play them out at bars, and then you'd have somebody come up to you, and they're going, well, where can we hear this?
Yeah.
Same place next week.
Yeah.
Nowhere else. So then you kind of, it was definitely a swing to go, okay, let me start releasing things. But that scratched a different itch because, I mean, music was always the forefront for me, but it wasn't something that I was trying to pursue until later on.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to write. I always liked writing. And then being able to combine those things was what really put it all together.
It's a different animal. It's a different feeling. I mean, I know for me, playing with Killbillies and playing with all the bands I play with, playing the cover songs and stuff, there is a certain, like you said, there, like Ben said, there's a certain part of you that is fulfilled because there is a crowd and they do respond to it and they do sing along with you and you do feel great about it. But writing music and releasing it is a completely different animal. And
when you feel the crowd react to that stuff, it's like, there it is.
it's way different.
Yeah.
And you almost, and not that being a cover musician is not a real musician. I mean, by all means, it's a real musician. There's a lot of talented people out there making a living doing that. But you do feel like there's a certain more solid reality to your career as a musician when you've now released something into the world that you created or that you created with your friends,
The full process of it, just going from writing something and feeling those chord changes and watching the progression build to yourself. So the song I sang earlier on was something I only wrote about a month ago, and I'm recording to release this year. But feeling those changes happen out, and then the second that you start playing it live and you start seeing that recognition of it, or you play it to a crowd that's completely new, and then by the second or third hook, you can see that they're kind of mouthing it off back to you, and your whole brain just lights up.
Yes.
You're like, oh, that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And right now, it's something that I really want for that band, Killbillies, is something with a shoutable back chorus.
Yeah.
We could really use one of those. We've got some kind of catchy songs, but we don't have anything where it's so easy for the audience they just can't mess it up. And I think that's the next thing I'm going to try and figure out.
Yeah.
No Regrets has a couple of lines in there.
Yeah.
Live each day like it's your last. Yeah, live each day like your last.
That was when I was saying that. The only one I was thinking that was not that was that No Regret.
Yeah. I mean, when we played that this weekend 700 times, over the course of 9 days, it was a 9-day weekend is what it felt like. When we did that this weekend, like there was a few times, a few of the venues where we played it at, and like you said, by the time we got around to it the third time, or whatever, people were actually singing along with it. So so it feels good that it's catchy.
And there's a few people who were there who just knew it too.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah.
People walking around with your merch and stuff, and you're looking at them thinking like, okay, this is cool. They came back.
Yeah, definitely.
They bought stuff and they came back.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, just made me think of social media, and it's not a bad time to ask you this. When it comes to all of that stuff that we have to do, who's doing it? Are you doing it?
It's me doing it for the time being. So when I launched 20s the first time, I was working with an agency to kind of push some of that out, and it helped because it kind of felt like a little bit of one distance away from me. I'm not good at it. I know that there's a legitimate skill set in that activity of it. I get wrapped up in my head on it. I hate that feeling of it, with the exception of posting things for come out to the show and this and that. But I mean, it's just feeding
consistency.
It's consistency. It's feeding the beast, and it's something that I certainly need to spend a little bit more time on doing.
Yeah.
But when I was working with other people for it, it was nice because it was a level of disconnect, and then having my sister text me and be like, "That wasn't you. I know how you text. That wasn't your caption. That was clearly somebody else." And you're like, "Yeah, okay, you called it."
Yeah. Well, we have someone who does our band one, and she's very good.
Nice.
So Danielle is her name, and she never pretends to like speak in our voice, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just more like kind of what's happening type stuff.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with having your name behind something is that it ends up sounding like your voice, whether it's whatever it is. It's just, we want you to hear this.
It's a very good point.
It's coming from the I of we, so it's a little bit difficult in that to estrange myself from someone.
Yeah, that's very true, man. I didn't think about it like that. And it's a ton of work, but it made me think of it because we were talking about people coming to the shows and knowing the words and everything, and they all find out about it online.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's how it happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a tool. It's a resource. And it's something that I need to tap into definitely more. It's one of those things that, again, it's not a skill that I have, but I can see it. I mean, you can recognize it with so many different people where you see so many overnight success stories and, overnight in quotes, but people who just tapped into that market. And we follow them too, I'm sure, just those types of people who, Daniel Donato, I just saw in Austin last month. And I just remember him years ago, he was just sitting in front of a green screen and he was just picking at his guitar. I mean, hell of a guitarist. And then I was watching him at Scoot In, and it's nearly a sold out show. And you're like, you're doing it. He's sitting in with the Grateful Dead. And you're like,
that's so awesome.
You did it from capitalizing on social media. Yeah. Like,
that's killer.
There's success stories all around it. I mean, just doing it better.
Yeah, man. So, you're a very good guitar player. Where did this all first start? How long have you been playing guitar?
So my parents got me a guitar when I was 7. So about 25, 26 years now of playing guitar. And it was always just kind of there. So if I was on the couch, I was picking at it. It wasn't really something where I was looking at it as this end-all, be-all. It just became kind of a best friend in a sense. It was a limb. So I appreciate the compliment there. But the fun thing is about with guitar and probably every instrument is that there's always something in your head going, I need to learn a little more on this thing, which is the best part of learning an instrument.
It's like the lifelong journey.
And and then when something does click and you get something else in your vocabulary for an instrument, then you can start opening up that conversation that much more.
Totally.
So it's been a long time.
Anything that you're working on at the moment specifically? Like even if there's like a long-term type of a goal?
I mean, right now, because of the 3-piece, I'm just trying to get better at lead. So for the longest time, I was just doing a lot of rhythm lead, which is just landing on that one at the same time. So I wasn't really taking those 8-count, 16-count stretches and trying to space it out. So I was always trying to land. Exactly. So when you're doing rhythm, or even my drummer and I, David and I, were playing as a duo for a while, and you still need to fill the space. So now that Ab has joined us, I think the thing that I'm trying to really improve on is that lead guitar, because it's fun when you get lost on it.
Yeah, man. And there's such a rockabilly vibe going on too. I feel like you need to be busting out some awesome rockabilly licks.
Yeah. It's nice when you can do.
Yeah, totally. The thing that I've been working on currently, I was showing Hector earlier, but he was completely disinterested. But it's okay.
Oh, because it's music theory, and my theory on music theory is I don't like it.
So I was trying to, like floating scales where you play around like the 7th and 9th fret.
Yeah.
I've been practicing them a lot.
Nice.
Just want to be able to play up there like fluidly the same way I can at the bottom. So that's my new current thing. Make my guitar sound like a banjo.
There you go.
That's the aim. But I actually started doing an internet series called Scales Reels, which is like explaining scales and putting up different exercises and things like that. And it's partially because I think that I could do a pretty good job of it, but it's also because I want to practice more. And if I'm having to do that, I better know it.
When you give yourself a deadline or a quota or something, I think it really.
And if you have to film yourself playing a scale or an exercise, you got to know it perfectly. So it's just another reason for me to have to get in the woodshed.
Yeah, I find that a lot. I mean, we talked about the social media element of it, but there's definitely those times where you learn something and then you go, I'm going to record this one. And then you just sit there and you're like, I don't actually know this song at all. I've done it 100 times. And you put a click to it, or you just put a phone in front of you and you're like, it turns out I'm totally blank.
Yeah, and I find with our band too, with Killbillies, that everything goes faster than you remember.
Yep.
It's like, and I know that James feels this. He'll be working on something all week. He'll think he has it perfectly, and then we'll play it, and he's like, I'm nowhere near it.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than- yeah. Well, you listen to it back, and you run. So what I was mentioning before we got on was that the Artemis and 20s were both, the rhythm sections were all live in studio.
Yeah.
So we got with the guys at Raincat, fantastic studio. Can't speak their praises enough. And we sat in where drummer was in, and ISO booth for the guitar, and bass was DI. And we just worked it out. Some songs took 3 takes, some songs took 15.
Sure.
Most of them took 3, honestly, because we had a lot of them pretty tight. But you do it the first go through, and you're like, okay, let me hear the click, let me hear the back, and you listen to it, and you're going, oh, we need to slow this down by like 20 BPM.
Yeah.
This is just so hot right off the top.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny how the timing of all those things end up switching
The
around.
stress too in the studio when it because you can't do it 4,000 times and you have to get it right eventually.
Yeah.
And so that just makes you speed up for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a little bit of an adrenaline thing, and
Yeah.
when you only have a few days to book.
So you were doing it live, but you weren't doing it to a click.
We were doing it to
You
a
were
click.
doing it to a
yeah,
click.
but
Okay.
even so, we would do
But
a
live.
run through. We would do a run through, have them find the click. A lot of
I
times we'd come
see.
in with a BPM, but then we would go like, let's play it live.
Gotcha.
So have the engineers, either Jeff or Brian, do the click count, and then come back, put it in our ears.
Yeah,
let's run it
okay.
through, and then you listen to it back, and you're going, yeah, okay, we're playing it on the click, but it's a little hot. So now we need to start weighing ourselves down a little bit more.
Gotcha.
There's a local band called Suicide Bombers that I recorded recently, and they didn't use a click at all. And you can hear it in the music, but not in a bad way. It's like, it does breathe it, bits are fast, bits are slower and stuff. But for them, it really works. I think it depends on what it is, you
Just
know?
a certain organic feel to it that way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, you want it to. I mean, I like when bands breathe a little bit in there where it doesn't feel super cookie cutter. I mean, there's certainly music too in pop that you listen to that it needs to be that dot 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 dot. But when it feels good to me, especially for the style of music, that Americana, which has become a little bit of a fun term, but that style of music, allowing it to have that type of breathing element to it, I think kind of helps
Yeah.
out quite a bit.
Absolutely. Is that what you would describe your genre, as your oeuvre as? Americana?
Yeah, only because there was nothing. I mean, I don't play rock and roll, I don't play country, I don't play blues, and I don't play soul, but I certainly play a lot of those things. So
No, I would call it
Exactly.
Americana as well. I
Yeah.
think that's accurate. That's one of the words we use to describe us, but we have a bit too much Irish music in there these days. So it's like Celticana.
well, I try to say Americana to people, thinking it would streamline that. Well, you play this, you play, and then you tell them, and they just blank face you, and they're like, I don't know. You're like,
What?
I don't know what it is. yeah, exactly. Like rock and roll, I don't know.
I hate describing Killbillies. You know, it's like it's kind of a Irishy, Americana, bluegrassy, punky. You know, it's like 11 terms or something, and
Yeah.
then they're like, "So what is it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Sometimes I'll just like find out on Spotify and go, it's that. Whatever you want to call that. It's that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I
with
think a
you.
lot of people have the same problems. It's very rare that a band fits exactly into a genre. And even if it does, the person who wrote the music probably wouldn't think that it did.
I almost don't trust you if you say like, this is my genre and that's all. Like I know
Yeah.
exactly what it is on the nose. And you're like,
Yeah.
So you don't want to try anything else? You don't
Yeah,
want to.
exactly.
You don't want to branch out at all?
It's too safe. Too
yeah.
safe.
I mean, if you listen to those records, everything has a little bit of something to it because it's just what I was feeling in that particular moment, and that's the song that I was. You know, some start off with a riff, some start off with a lyric, and then it just builds around that.
Yeah.
And then when something's cemented and I like it enough, I'm like, okay, we need to put it on wax.
So when you were writing songs all through your 20s, and when did you start playing out? Like how long have you been playing in venues? Just covers, just anything.
Yeah. So I was in school in Jacksonville, and I'd come back down here in Fort Lauderdale, and I think I was 20 at the time, and one of my best friends, he came over, and we were drinking in my garage, and he said, "Can you show me something on that guitar?" I said, "Sure." Started picking around a guitar with him, and he picked up a harmonica, and we're just drinking and Yinglings and Jim Beam in the garage. Next day he called me and he said, "I got us a gig." And so that's not how it works. And he said, no, we got a gig. It's on the beach. It's going to be a fun. I talked to the bartender. They said, it's fine. We'll just do what we did last night. And I said, we sounded terrible last night. I don't want anybody to hear what we did last night.
Yeah,
and he said, but they'll give us a bar tab. And when you're 20 years old and you got a bar tab, you're going, this is as good as it gets. So I said, all right, so what time
When you're 20 years old,
go?
you could bankrupt somewhere if you have a bar tab.
We did. They closed a couple weeks later. They made terrible decisions. We ran up an $800 bar tab because they let us give out shots to all of our friends.
You're an absolute legend.
It was a mess. They closed a few weeks after we played there, and they invited us back. They cut off the microphone at a certain point. They let us just do instrumentation, but that was kind of the start. That was the impetus of it. But I'd performed. We did in school. We did school end of year shows where I was singing on stage. And like I said, I'd been playing guitar the whole time between that. But when I was in college, I didn't really pursue it. And in high school, I was with buddies who were genuinely talented. So I had friends in bands, and all of my buddies would all play music. But I'd look at them, and they're all in math rock bands, and they're all in hardcore scene. And I look at them and I'm like, that's doing it. I'll listen to you guys, but I can't hold a note compared to what I'm hearing right now. So it was just fun being peripheral to it and knowing that I just had that love of music. Yeah. And at the time, I really just liked writing. So I'd read and write and then listen to my buddies' bands.
Nice.
And then 20 turned around and then started singing out and then playing in Jacksonville. And that's when the writing bug kind of kicked back in for music that time around. And when I came back here at 24, 25, that's when I really started dialing it in of playing those 4 or 5 times a week and trying to do something of it.
Yeah, from about 29 to about 35, I played like that, just a bazillion gigs a week.
Yeah.
And then up until relatively recently, we were playing a lot. I mean, we were playing probably 3 times a week.
Yeah, probably about that,
Yeah. But, I still play around 2 or 3 times a week. It's just now it's with different bands.
Yeah, that's actually true, too.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a hustle to it. For me, it was just noticing, like I said, 2020 came around where it gave me that perspective of wanting to write, and it was just a forced sabbatical, essentially.
No, that's great. And I feel like the pandemic and everything, it was a big shake-up. I got sober in the pandemic, and that was
good on you.
That was a game changer for me. Just completely changed my life.
Yeah, I talked to everybody in the pandemic, and I'm not sober, but in that first 2 months of the pandemic, I was dry because I was like, I'm not going to just sit inside and do this. So and that kind of gave that 2 months of just breathing, of not being in bars and drinking. You're like, okay, this feels better.
Yeah.
So let me start redirecting the way that I feel about music and start learning things again and writing again.
Yeah, I found that time to be enormously helpful. It was like if it had not happened, I'd be in a very different position now.
Yeah.
Like it was just perfect timing.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, I mean that's the silver lining to a lot of these things, man. It's rough in the moment too, but at the same time, it gave you that second perspective. Yeah, which I think it did for a lot of people. Fortunately.
Because you can't really get off the horse once you're an adult. It's just like keep going. Just got to keep going.
It's a routine. It's a rhythm. You know.
And you can. If you force yourself, but it's hard. It's really hard to do. And so that's why that break was. A lot of people have said that. A lot of people had very constructive, productive time in the pandemic. I mean, it was obviously awful. A lot of people died, but.
Yeah,
I'm always glad.
That's the other side of it. No, but I mean, I think that there was definitely a lot of positive to it. For me, it was that exact thing of recognizing, I think what you're alluding to as well is when you're in that rhythm and that routine, kind of don't really realize the toll you're taking on yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
At least I didn't only speak for myself, but I took that step back from it and recognized okay, I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping through the night for a week in a row. That hasn't happened in 3 years.
Yeah, sure.
And then just realizing that when I had that first gig back, it was a bigger gig because everybody was ready. It was so March shut down. I think May I was back on stage, and it was at a good venue at the time. And it was a good stage, and everybody was there for it. And I was going, if I can do this twice a month now, and just get everything else back to place, those 2 gigs, I'll make the best gigs.
Yeah.
And that's how it ended up kind of being now, where it's going, okay, we had 6 this past month. But if I play 3 or 4 times, if I play once a week, I can still keep my stage stamina.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I'm on stage, I am actually giving a show.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's
Yeah,
great.
true.
It has made a bit of a difference in that regard for Killbillies, just in terms of the way I feel about it when I'm on stage. It's not just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Which is-
Except this past weekend.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
We probably played more shows this last weekend than we did the entire rest of this year so far.
That's pretty funny, yeah.
We only had a few gigs in January,
St.
and a few
Patty's
gigs
gigs
in
will
February,
fly off,
and then we
man.
had 6 gigs this weekend. So I mean,
It's pretty hilarious, actually.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
I think now would be a good time for you to go and play your song.
Let's play my song.
High in the mountains, my words have come spouting so much faster than you ever could have counted. You bite your tongue and look away, knowing that I go on for days. I won't convince you that I'm the kind of prince to sweep you off your feet, right off in a limousine. But I talk until my face turns blue, just to make you love me more than you do. And I said, love, be patient with me. I might drink too much whiskey, but you know when I say that I love you. And I said, love, be patient with me. I might drink too much whiskey, but you know when I say that I love you. Were you in close while the nights got colder? Your head full of words, resting on my shoulders. We've had our doubts and runarounds, but you know I'll always calm you down. So feed my soul and soothe my pride. Tell everyone that we know I'm alive. Just hold up right now, so hold up right now. And I said, love, be patient with me. I might drink too much whiskey, but you know when I say that I love you. And I said, love, be patient with me. I might drink too much whiskey, but you know when I say that I love you. I said, love, be patient with me. I might drink too much whiskey, but you know when I say that I love you. Drove past the house to see if the lights were on. Drove in deep, played your song. Won't you look at me, tell me what's wrong? Rest your head somewhere you belong. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain. It'll It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain. Alright, but tell me what's new. All your dreams, they come true. Know you got it, you always do. Silver lining starts with you. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain. Tuck and roll, let the fire break your soul. Tuck and roll, let the fire break your soul. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. Time has passed, we spoke last, nothing's certain.
Oasis route Kava bar is in Seagrape Square on Indiantown Rd, and it is a Kava bar. If you don't know anything about Kava, it's a Polynesian root that you grind up and you mix with water, and it has been in Polynesia for potentially thousands of years. It's an old thing that they used for kind of ceremonial and also sort of leisure purposes. It's meant to be something where, you know, that brings people together. You all take a shell of kava and chink them together and say bula and have it together like that. It's meant to be something to bring people together. It has a kind of an effect, which is, I guess, a kind of a slightly warming effect. It just kind of makes you feel nice. It's not particularly intoxicating. It's not like drinking alcohol. So the atmosphere in a kava bar is sort of like a cross between a regular bar and a coffee house. It's pretty chill in there. You get all sorts of different types of kava bars. Some of them are more like a club, you know, there's sort of like blacklight and EDM playing. And some of them are more like a cafe. This is one of the cafe type of ones. It's super chill in there. If you're looking for somewhere to, I don't know, maybe go and do some work on your laptop or go and have a chat with friends, it's perfect for that kind of thing. There's a foosball table in there if that's your jam, or baby foot as they call it in France. Yeah, Jim, the owner, is a really cool guy, and he has very kindly sponsored our podcast. So thank you very much for that, Jim. They also do a poker night in there, all sorts of things going on at Oasis Route. 561 Music is sponsored by Live Music Community. It's where we film the podcast that you're listening to right now, and it's also where I work. Gavin, Hector's son, was a student here for a long time, and in many ways he's the musician he is today because of the teachers at Live Music Community. We taught him not only about his instrument, but also about being in a band, and his band Unemployed Youth accomplished a lot of goals, mostly band etiquette, how to work together, and all of the nitty-gritty that goes into being in a band on a day-to-day basis. The student signs up for lessons, learns their instrument, joins a real band, and decides the direction it goes in. And we can take people from very young age, 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to 80. There's no age limit here. We run an adult program for people who want to be in a band as adults, but really the main focus is on the kids and getting them playing together and in bands. We are also a studio a live stream venue. We can record audio or video. The Killbillies live album, Warts and All, was recorded here. It was recorded during a live stream that we did during COVID. Justin had a great idea to record live streams during COVID. A ton of bands came in, and it was a real success. Outside of that, we can record albums, we can help you with your EPK, and we have full audio-visual capabilities here. LMC is in Palm Beach Gardens on the northwest corner of Military Trail and North Lake Boulevard. And if you go to livemusiccommunity.com, you have all the information you'll need right there. So we were just listening to an ad for Live Music Community, which is going through some very interesting changes that we are not going to talk about today. But we are sat here right now. And my question for you is, do you have any advice for upcoming musicians?
Yeah, I think just be bored. Find times to be bored. If you're a creative person, I think just being bored is massive. If you're trying to write, if you're trying to create something, if you're trying to find something new, go on a walk, take your phone away, don't listen to music, go for a drive, intentionally turn the music off.
Go for a drive is I love that one. It's
just
my
any
brain
of those
just starts going.
Exactly, yeah. So like I personally, like I like to just like take that hour walk with nothing on me, or go for the drive where you turn the music off for an hour.
Yeah.
And it won't happen the first 15, 30, 45 minutes, but at the 50-minute mark, you might find something where you just, if you're a creative person, you want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you're seeking out by looking at your phone and listening to music, listen to something on the radio. But if you're creative, you're going to come up with something.
Yeah.
And it might not be music, but it might be something that you can just start spinning out on. And that's,
Absolutely.
I think, what kind of pulls that thread. So.
You know what I love about going on walks is it's just like the blood pumping into your brain. It just kind of enriches it a little bit. And like, I always find it's a really, really good time for conversation with someone as well. It's like if you want to talk to someone and you can't really, and it's a bit awkward, just go on a walk. If you're walking along together, you're fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Works perfectly. But yeah, like that's a great time for being creative too. And I was brought up in the countryside and used to go on these long walks in the woods, and yeah, I'd usually be humming a tune.
Nothing better than it. I mean, that's how I wrote a couple of the songs, is just getting a cab and kind of making that time and going out to a place that didn't have self-service.
Yeah.
Forcing yourself to go in a place where you can't find any alternatives to it.
idea.
Can be a couple books.
Yeah.
Pick out a chord progression in your head and then go for a walk and then just think about that chord progression and then just start ruminating on it and see where it goes, because you're actively doing other things. But again, if you're a creative person, your brain wants to create.
No, that's actually no one said that, and we've done a lot of these, and I love that you said it, because it's very true. And finding space in one's life is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it's a very good idea.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think even to me, I try to literally, I'll schedule it. It's a real type A thing of me, but it's like once a week, just turn off the radio on the drive back home from work.
Yeah.
Once a week, just go out to the beach, just go for a walk, go out, find a trail, go out, walk, and leave your phone in the car.
Yeah.
And you're not there trying to seek for something, because 30 walks in a row, you might not have anything, but that 31st walk, you might have that thing where you're going, oh, that's what my brain wanted to do, you know? And it's just, I think it's massive. I think it's so easy to be passively entertained constantly.
For sure.
And I'm a huge culprit of it. There's always something playing or something like that. So that's why I have to regularly remind myself, like, hey, you're supposed to be bored sometimes, because your brain needs to think about something on its own.
I think it's healthy in so many other ways too. Yeah, it's just like, it's not something that you can avoid that now if you want. It's escapism. It's so easy to not be left with your own thoughts these days.
Yeah,
you know?
massive. From the second you start your day to the second you end it, you can be plugged into something.
Exactly.
So I feel like just
Most people are, yeah.
Yeah, and it's simple. It's as easy as it is. I mean, like, there's nothing else. I mean, there's just so much passive entertainment that you could constantly be digesting. But then you go to sleep that night, you'll realize you didn't have an original thought the entire day.
I mean, I know people close to me that will literally wake up in the morning, grab their phone, and start scrolling. And when they go to bed at night, they're scrolling until they fall asleep with the phone in their hand.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally their day.
I think it's more common than not nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and again, it's just part of culture. It's what it is.
I
But
put
think
my
it's good.
phone down, but I have a TV in the bedroom. So
See,
It's like a giant phone.
yeah, exactly. So that's not exactly,
yeah, I think it's just good to be bored sometimes. I mean, whatever avenue you're doing in creation, if you have a creative brain, that's what it wants to do. It wants to create something.
You're right. And that's definitely something that I go through periods of time where I know that, and I have, acted on it, but not lately. So it's nice to be reminded, and be good to. One of the things I like to do is like to go to the pier on Juno, just walk up and down Juno Pier and have a think. I always like that one. Walk along the beach. There's walking roads in South Florida
Was dangerous.
That.
It just sucks.
No, you shouldn't do
It
that.
just sucks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
dangerous.
It's such a shame because, like,
Yeah.
I was brought up in the UK and just walking around the towns in the UK. You get so used to just kind of bimbling around in an urban environment, but there's just not a lot of that down here. I guess there's a little bit in Fort Lauderdale.
No, I wouldn't recommend that either. I like to. For me, I'm from Davie, so the neighborhood I grew up in has a state park attached to it. So I grew up just being in those woods and kind of knowing that. So I'm really used to just being able to pop into woods and
Nice.
just go and kind of disappear for a little while. And growing
Yeah.
up making fires and all those
I
silly
love
things.
all of that
but
too.
that's the best. So now it's still that thing in my head of if I'm out in Davie, just to again set the phone down, just go for a walk and see things.
Excellent. What a
but yeah,
refreshingly healthy perspective.
try my best.
So could you tell us a little bit about the songs that you played?
Yeah, so Tuck and Roll was a song that I just wrote in the past month or so that I'm fixing to release come June or so. So my grandfather passed a couple years ago, and I wanted to embody, that's okay, some of his little idioms that he would do and say. And I was talking with my grandmother one night after a gig, and you get off a gig and you're still on that high. And I think I looked at Instagram and I saw she was on, and it's midnight, so I call her and I'm like, what are you doing up? "Oh, I don't sleep." So we started going back and forth, and now it's a little bit of a tradition. After a gig, I'll give her a call at midnight. All my call logs with my grandmother at 11 p.m. We'll talk for about an hour or so while winding down, and she started saying some of the things, and the thing that she said was it'll feel better when it quits hurting, which was one of his. He was a Wisconsin boy and on farms, and same type of mentality of just get out in the woods.
Great line, yeah.
Yeah, and so then I just realized like there was poetry in that line, and started building things around it and trying to remember things that he had said. And then coincidentally, I'm telling my sister about it, really close with my sister, fortunately. And I'm telling her about the song, and I was like, yeah, it started off with this part of it'll feel better when it quits hurting. And, she goes, oh, I really like that. She goes, when I was in labor, she just gave birth a year and a half ago. She goes, when I was in labor, I thought about that. I'm like, kind of ruined the song for me.
No, you can think of it.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I did really enjoy that song until that. But anyways, so we had that, and then Tuck and Roll was something that he always kind of said. He was a Marine, and he had a bunch of those just types of lines of things. So I try to put all of it together to keep him alive.
Yeah, man.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
I've done similar things. Or a song called "The Day That Jerry Died" a while back now, and it was just really a list of things that I remembered about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's a good feeling. It's nice when you can kind of, especially like, coincidentally, he was always the one to kind of, I was real close with him. And whenever I was over there, he would always ask, one of the questions was always revolving. He's like, so when are you doing this full time? It's like, we'd talk. He's like, the happiest I ever see is when you're on stage.
No.
So he was always pretty big on that, which is
supportive.
nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So it's nice when you get to kind of embody somebody in a song like that.
Yeah, and I feel like grandparents can have a slightly different perspective than parents, because they're not quite so worried about like the immediate stuff. Like they can see the big picture, and they understand. But the older you are, the more you start to realize that all that matters is are you happy?
Yeah. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the other one about?
The other one's Whiskey Love Songs. So that was actually a cabin song. So that was, I again got a cabin in northern Georgia, no cell service, no running water, one outlet to charge the phone just to make sure. And, coincidentally, I was sat out there, and it was, I think it was in October. And
This like just passed?
no, sorry. So that made it onto 20s.
Oh, gotcha.
It was 2021, I think.
Okay.
I think it was either 2020 or 2021. It was either the year of COVID or the year after COVID, and I just wanted to get out into the woods and do exactly what we were talking about. So kind of just scheduled that, brought a bunch of guitars and a laptop and a handful of books, and I would just go for walks all day and then start picking at something. And one of my favorite records is Tom Petty's Wildflowers.
Sure.
And did probably listen to that, thousands and thousands of times. And I started picking at the chords of Wildflowers and just realizing the one thing that they did was simplicity.
Yeah.
And I can listen to those songs 1,000 times, and the simplicity of it was what was great. And
Well, the cleanness of that song in particular it's like there's no wasted notes and there's nothing in it that could possibly ever annoy you. The words are perfect, the chords are it's perfect.
But that's it, yeah. and I like that with songwriting, where like some of my favorite songwriters are the ones that just distill things to that exact sentiment of getting everything as just, it's so chiseled. Yeah. And it seems so simple. But if you write songs, you know that it's easy to be flamboyant, or it's easy to be, hyperbolic, or they really fine tune everything. And he did.
That song is an example that I use of a very well written song all the time.
Yeah, and what it does is it kind of hypnotizes you too in that particular song, because there's so many layers to it that I don't think you really recognize unless you go back and try to critically listen to it, and you're like, oh wow, there's a lot of actual instrumentation to it.
Yeah, and it's got a fair clip to it, but it's also super relaxing. It's just, I don't know, I love that song as well. We used to play it actually in Killbillies a while back.
Yeah, so the Whiskey Love Songs, I basically just was sitting there on this porch of this cabin and started picking around at that G, and went to the next change, and then just told myself, stop overcomplicating it, just a stream of consciousness. So the lyrics that you heard are almost the exact lyrics that I sang in succession of that song. So it starts off high in the mountains. That's exactly what I was looking at. So high in the mountains, and just I ran those first two verses and then went and opened it up to the chorus, and that melody line of the chorus just fell into place, and then I stopped, and I didn't have any service, but I went, does this already exist? Because it just came so quickly that I thought for sure I stole it or something, but this many years later, nobody's come for copyright. Thousands of listens.
That's excellent. So, I think, sometimes we get blessed with this kind of thing, it just gets downloaded into your brain. You get a good one.
Yeah. I think it's just the antenna thing. I think it's just being an antenna, and I think that it's what I believe in with walking and driving and all of that. I think it's when you're passive in those moments that you can become an antenna for ideas, and it doesn't make it feel forced.
Part of the reason why driving is a great time for me to be creative is because no one can hear you. You're in a hermetically sealed box, And you can just, scream your head off.
Your car is an actual literal box.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm driving around, to be a fly on the wall. I would think it would be funny to just see myself even. It's like the things that come out of my mouth. Unbelievable. Anyway, so we have a picture of your guitar, and I was kind of admiring it earlier. Can you tell us a bit about the guitar? Yeah,
so that's the workhorse. That's my Taylor. I've had it now for about 8 years. It's funny. So I brought it out today, and it was probably one of the first times I played it in a little bit. I've been playing on a Jazzmaster with the band. And Jazzmaster's really been treating me well. It gives me a nice little fat sound there where I can kind of bounce between that rhythm and lead, like we were saying. But yeah, that Taylor, compliments of Sweetwater, I'd imagine, with that brick background. It worked. And I was never really like a Taylor guy. We were talking earlier about between Martins and Gibsons and all of that. But I just wanted something that was plug and play, and I knew it would get me through as many gigs as it could. And treated me really well.
And I just think it was what I was saying earlier as well, which was basically like, it very often it's guitar to guitar. It's like, would I pick, if I had to go and grab a Taylor over a Martin, would I? Not necessarily, but then I'd pick that Taylor.
Thank you.
It plays really nice.
Yeah, no, and it's also just like it's 8 years of playing it, however many hours I've put on it. I think that really warms it up.
And looking after it too, because there's no substitute for that, you can tell, the neck's still good. And
Yeah,
everything,
yeah. Yeah, that's
Great.
also just getting it, getting that work done on it. I mean, we're playing out in South Florida. The conditions are going to wear you down.
Yeah.
I mean, the salt water and everything else, it'll bow out after a little bit. So every few years or so, I'll go get it touched up and cleaned up because it makes just such a massive difference.
Who do you use again for that?
It was Scotty over at, I'm drawing a blank on this place, but I'll give it back over to you guys. Hopefully we can plug it because he's the man. He's the bassist over at Spectora. David, my drummer, also plays with them as well too.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a great job. It's good when you get a tech.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. There's a couple of people in town that I use, but so I'd love to learn how to do it myself. There's a course, I think, up in Portland somewhere. You can go to Luthier College, and it's like over a long weekend, or maybe 2 long weekends, but I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, that's nice. There's something about, it's funny, it's like it's only with music that I end up having the patience for it. So if it comes down for anything else, I'm just immediately drop of the hat frustrated, where I'm like, I'll kick this thing to oblivion.
100%.
But then you get me to a guitar and you'll see me just go total tunnel vision where there's no other, restringing it or cleaning it up after a gig or something, and you're just immediately like, okay, no, this is the thing I love.
Yep.
Gotta pay some attention now.
Gotta take care of it. Gotta take care of your baby.
Yeah.
Have you ever messed around with guitars like that? Have you ever?
I have more electric guitars than anything else, and more because Gavin, my son, gets he goes out and he's very tech savvy, and so he's gone out and just purchased the shittiest, crappiest, $20 no-name electric guitar he can find, and then like Frankenstein this thing into like the most amazing guitar I've heard, and then sells it off and then buys another one and starts it. So he's done that like a couple of times now. He's got another one he's putting together now, and so I've messed around a little bit because of him, but not that much.
Yeah.
Not that much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm in the process of putting together a Tele. I wanted to. I wanted like a Tele Deluxe type of guitar, but with a couple of extra things on there. And I realized like there's no point in me buying something. I've got to either make it or find someone to make it for me, because there's so many little things about it that I want different.
Yeah.
And I do it for a living, so I don't feel bad about that,
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, Eli, is going to help me do it, so it's going to be fun.
Nice.
Make my Frankenstein Tele.
Yeah, you
man.
should check out Nash Guitars. So my jazz is a Nash, and they do a good job. It's a custom shop, and it was I believe the story is that the gentleman Nash who started it was working at Fender Custom Shop.
Right.
So he does all the offsets, but he also does teles and strats too.
Interesting. Yeah,
they're
I
great
have
gear.
heard of that. I don't know whether I've heard of it because it just sounds like something I would have heard of, or if I actually have heard of it.
Yeah.
I think I have. Yeah, I'll check it out though. I'll write it down somewhere so I don't forget. So, what's on the horizon for you? What's next?
This year we're hitting the road. So we're gonna have we're playing Raleigh and Myrtle Beach this coming weekend on the 29th. We'll be opening up for Taylor Holden, who's a country act over at Tin Roof. So they're putting him on a national tour, and then we're gonna be the openers for him.
So
which is
Tin
cool.
Roof is putting it on a tour.
Yeah. So once you kind of, it's a great place.
Is there like a bunch of Tin Roofs?
Yeah, there's like
Yeah, there
34 of them.
Yeah.
They go from as far west as San Diego to all the way up to Detroit.
There's a few in Florida. There's one in Orlando.
Orlando.
There's a few of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Orlando, Delray, and Fort Lauderdale all have tin roofs. And then
You were saying that before, and I didn't really understand what you meant, but I get it now.
yeah, and it's treated us really well because, like I said, people are out there to listen to music. That's their whole thing behind it. And they have the infrastructure behind it, so you kind of just link up with all of their different bookers, and they have their own regions, and they're stringing us around on shows. So
And I
it's
imagine
excellent.
you've been playing Tin Roof. You've been playing down in Fort Lauderdale mostly.
Between Fort Lauderdale and Delray.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So between those two, so we'll probably branch out to Orlando this year as well. The June run is Raleigh and Myrtle Beach, and we were trying to string along a couple other gigs. The nice thing is that when you're on the road, they backline you. So like they have the house kit.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you can do it in one car where you're not really dragging around too much stuff.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes life a lot easier for that load in, load out, and
That's
then
super
just
cool.
being on the road.
Yeah, for sure.
The way that our instruments work, that that just doesn't help us at all, which is just so irritating because we have to bring all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
It's the only way to.
We don't have a drum kit. We have foot drums, like a snare and a kick.
Yeah.
They're separate.
Yeah.
Two different people play it.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're like set up with
it's like weird gear, and then
and he has a stand-up bass.
Stand-up bass and a banjo and a guitar. Like, there's really no backline for us. Like, there's no way to backline us. We have to bring everything.
Yeah, it's a kind of a pain, but it's not that much stuff. Like, we pretty much got it all to England in our bags.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's a good feeling.
if we don't have to do a PA ourselves, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
It's just a double bass, which is a lot.
And then most importantly, we're playing the 561 Music Fest.
What the hell's that?
Yeah,
Talk
that's so
about it.
cool, man.
We're stoked. No, we're actually really looking forward to it. Me and the guys we're all looking forward to kind of just meeting a little bit more of the scene, because I think one of the things that you guys are doing really well is just piecing together a scene. I mean, we were talking about it before off camera, but there is a lot of talent in South Florida, and I think that it is a little adjunct at times, because I think everyone's kind of just fighting, not with each other, but even just for themselves. You know, it's just, and it's good to have these types of things to bring people together and kind of create a scene with itself.
It is. And once there's a couple of things out there in the ecosystem of just things you can do for music, and then a bunch of different musicians have done it. It just creates communities. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's just trying to expanding the ecosystem. You know?
And it's interesting. I mean, we started 561 Music as literally the 561 area code, like this area, Palm Beach County. And slowly but surely, we've been picking up bands from the Treasure Coast, and we've been picking up bands from Fort Lauderdale. We've been picking up bands out. And so for the festival, we have people all the way from the Treasure Coast all the way down to Miami,
Nice.
Davie, and that kind of area.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, and you know, and we've kind of worked a little bit hand in hand with like another podcast down south, Stage Mom,
cool.
Kim at Stage Mom.
Yeah.
You know, we've done a few things here and there where it's like, we've come to realize that, you know, nurturing our music community here in 561 doesn't mean it has to be 561. Like just local could be Florida. You know?
It begates itself too. I mean, I think like the more that you branch it out, the more everyone feels that sense of community. Then you can
absolutely.
Because then people like myself, like I can come out and play up here, and then it just branches that out. It gives me another audience to play to. I mean,
exactly. And on the subject, I'm going to ask you about another gig that I want you to do.
Let's
about
talk about it.
And then I'm going to ask him about another gig that you don't even know about that I was going to ask him about. So, let's do it. So we'll hook you up.
We'll line up that calendar.
That's really funny.
Right on.
So on the subject of 561 Music, let's talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
May 3rd, Meyer Amphitheater, 20 bands, 2 stages, food trucks, art vendors.
It's a free show.
It is a free show, and that is thanks to our sponsors, our presenting sponsor, the law offices of Stenger, Greene and Feiner, and as well as Cultural Council of Palm Beach County, Discover the Palm Beaches, Backsavers, Harmony Management Group, Galliano Family Salon, High Tide Waterfront Realty, and the Shirt Series. And the Shirt Series is our official merchandise partner out of Miami. Hooking all the bands up with things. So yeah, man, it's gonna be amazing. You can get all the details at 561musicfestival.com. And
here, I'm gonna do it. Mason Pace, Tiger Sunset, Closer to the Ocean, Ras, Jut Huffman, Fuakatar, Medicine Room, Jacob Tacos and the Connection, Beeline, Reverse Oreo, Modern Odyssey, Stony Falls, Strider, Shakers, Ryan Hopkins, Slow Funk Pump, Off Orbit, Billy Doom is Dead, Little Things, Blab Scam.
yeah, there you go.
That's 20, the bands that play.
20 bands. And so 561musicfestival.com. It is an absolute free show. To be there and to attend is an absolutely free show. It's gonna be all day, May 3rd, Meyer Amphitheater, downtown West Palm Beach. 11 a.m. starts. The festival opens 11 a.m. First act starts at 11:30. Festival closes at 10 p.m. and last act will probably finish right around then, 9:30, 10 o'clock. We'll have the 2 stages. One will be the Meyer Amphitheater, and one will be one of the big portable stages that we're going to have brought out. Yeah. And man, it's going to be an amazing time. Be on the lookout. We have a call to artists going out this week for the vendors, for the art vendors. So if you're an artist and you want to jump on the bandwagon here and join us, please go to the website, check it out. There'll be a call to artists, and then we're just doing a lot of cool stuff. We're gonna have a guitar giveaway, so that'll be going up on the website next week. You'll just get in there, give us your email address, social security number, credit cards, address, all that stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you'll be able to get on the website and sign up, and we're gonna do a guitar giveaway on the day of. We're gonna have all the bands sign it and everything. It's gonna be fun. And then we're also doing a VIP area. And the VIP area, a couple of the details are still trying to sort out, but basically what the VIP area is going to be, it's going to be $100 for the VIP area. It's the only ticketed part of the event. It's going to be a roped off area that's going to have a little bit of seating and tables, maybe some high tops. It's going to have some tents and things so that you can get out of the sun if you want to. Just kind of relax for a minute. There's going to be light snacks. There's going to be drinks. There's going to be, apparently Ben is swimming over here. I don't know. There's going to be light snacks. There's going to be drinks, waters and things like that to cool off. The beer in the VIP tent will be included. So it's $100, but if you want to have some beers, it's complimentary. It's part of it. We're going to have between the 6 and 8 o'clock hour, we're going to have heavy hors d'oeuvres. We're having a restaurant cater that. That's the part that's still up in the air. We have a couple of choices of restaurants, and so we're gonna lock that in. But it will be some nice heavy hors d'oeuvres, and then also one of the cool things about the VIP area is we're gonna be recording, which we've done in the past, but we've done it a little bit differently. So this year we're gonna have Ben set up and in the VIP area. I'm going to come by eventually every once in a while when I can make some time and get in there. I'm going to get in there with him. But Ben's going to be in the VIP area, and what he's going to do is he's going to take each one of the 20 bands one by one, and he's going to bring them through the VIP area throughout the day. He's going to sit down with them, and he's going to do a quick 5 to 10 minute little interview with them in the VIP area. And it's kind of almost like a little meet and greet with the VIP area. But mostly so we can put together a podcast episode, essentially from footage from the festival and getting the band's reactions of what was it like to be on the stage? Did you have a good time? Yeah. What's your thoughts on the festival? What do you think moving forward? What would you do differently, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it makes total sense to the podcast to have a presence at this thing. And it'd be great to get an episode out of it, absolutely. I'm also going to be roving around a little bit too.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Roving reporter.
Yeah.
Ben, the roving reporter. So yeah, it's going to be a good time. So, definitely check out the website, 561musicfestival.com. Please support all of our sponsors. They are making it absolutely 100% possible for Ben and I not to have to mortgage our houses to be able to do this. And it's giving us the opportunity, to create an event that's, way bigger than we even thought possible in the beginning when we started this 4 years ago. And it's an event that's giving all of these local bands a place to showcase their music, their creativity. Yeah. It's giving them a louder voice, essentially, Yeah. And then we're making the music accessible to everybody to be able to listen to. So it's definitely a good thing.
There's no downsides. We just got to keep at it. Feet don't fail us now.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ryan.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
A breath of fresh air, my friend.
It was great to work with you guys. This is awesome.
Good time, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
Yeah. Peace out.
Take a better scene, it's what we're doing. Come and check it out.